Welcome everyone to the AI/ML mini conference. My name is Zhuoran. This is co-organized with Adway Kanheri and Minghong Xu. And really I'm thrilled to welcome our panelists today, Nan On, Jake Chadrow, and Zhuoran Liu. The idea of this panel is to have current students experience some interaction with folks who've sat in these chairs, walked these hallways, and are on the other side of graduation, and for our panelists to have a chance to share their journeys, their insights. Welcome. Really thank you, Zhuoran, Nan, and Jake, and really looking forward to this. So to kick this off, maybe we could have each of the panelists just sort of give us a brief bio in your own words. We do have brief bios posted on the conference flyer, so you can read those and also look at the LinkedIn profiles. But maybe we could just, to sort of make this, really free-flowing conversation. Maybe you could start, Nan, and just tell us, when you sat in these chairs, what your journeys look like since then. Anne, would you like to start?
Yes, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Graham. Thank you. Thank you, the students, for coming to this event, and thank you for having me. My name is Nan, and I graduated last year from MSF, and I'm current research analyst at IMF. So today's topic will be the other side of graduation. So I'd like to talk about what I do at IMF and how did I find this job, and what I did to prepare in the job search process when I was at school. So yeah, very happy to get started. So I came to the States in 2022, and previously I studied in Canada for 4 years in Toronto. So once I started my my MSF study, I started to find job. And at first I think I tried to find job at Handshake for a long time, but it's very hard to do anything without networking. So I started to coffee chat with alumni who working these days, and I started to find out IMF and World Bank, such as this kind of public sector in DC, and in first semester at IMF, I interviewed for the first time with the investment team, and that's the opportunity I got from Handshake. I was shortlisted by Carrie, so I think that would be very important to get connected with your with your professor and the alumni, so you can know the opportunity once it was posted on Handshake. And I didn't I was rejected for the first time, but I interviewed for the second time in 2023 December, and I got the offer in early this year. So that's almost something about my hiring process. And I would like to talk about the job function I do in IMF. So my work is research analyst, and what I will do is support the econometric analysis for the economists, and prepare the presentation for the economic counselor, who is the chief economist at IMF, such as preparing some public engagement including the keynote speeches or conference presentations and the meetings with the country authority. And the skill sets in this job function will be, I think most important will be the data analysis skill, such as how should you perform the econometric analysis and some empirical analysis on Stata, R, or Excel. Well, the Excel is the most important. And I think there's a tip when you are in the job search process. Firstly, I think to talk to as more people as you can, and always be professional when you talk to your alumni or professor, such as yeah, well, I know it's hard to get started, but YouTube, you should utilize YouTube a lot. There are a lot of channels to tell you how to do the coffee chat, or to like let others help you to refer. And I think the second tips will be focus on the courses that relevant to the skill set that you are interested in, such as one of the most important course I learned at Carey is financial modeling course. I don't know whether one of you take that. Yeah, that help you a lot on how to use the Excel. So I think yes, first talk to as much people as you can, and be familiar with the relevant courses you took, and do review and recap before the interview. Yeah, and let me see what other notes I took.
Dan, why don't we give Jake a chance to jump in, because I'm sure we're going to look back and come back to some of your ideas. Why don't we give Jake a chance to jump in right here?
Of course.
Thanks.
Sure, yeah, I can go next. So I'm Jake Chadrow. I graduated from the BARM program last May. So it's been about a year at this point. I currently work at Sony Music Entertainment in New York City as a business analyst. I was in the BARM program, so it was a perfect fit for me. Before that, I did a few internships in finance. I worked at a hospital on the team that managed their endowment, so I know a little bit about investments, things like that. I originally wanted to be an investment analyst, but kind of zigzagged over the years. And before Hopkins, I went to a small liberal arts school in Maryland called Goucher. So I think there are a few other people this year and as well as last year that went to that school as well. It was in the Maryland, Baltimore area. And I graduated with economics and a minor in business management. So between college and graduate school and the BARM program, I really tried to leverage all of my skills in the world of economics, finance, analytics, things like that. And I would say that in my year working so far as a business analyst, a lot of the things that I did while I was at Carey were useful. A lot of the marketable skills like SQL or Power BI, things like that. Any of the classes that teach you software, especially Excel, were very important. But above all, I think the project management course that I took while I was there was very underrated at the time, but it was one of the most important. I would say any job that has business analyst in the title or anything along that line will have some sort of day-to-day tasks related to Scrum, sprint planning, project management, even if it's small. So definitely don't shy away from that. I think a lot of people wanted to take the technical courses, the machine learning courses and all of that. But if you're going down the route of a business analyst, I would say definitely brush up on your project management. A lot of the interviews I had asked me questions about that. So I'm really glad that I prepared for that. But also being a business analyst is like a jack of all trades kind of thing. So some days I'm doing work that's more closely related to data analytics or in SQL or data visualization. And then other times I'm working and just talking to people all day, making tickets, project management, project planning, things like that.
Cool. Zhuoran, what about you?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys. So first, I'm so thrilled to be here. This is Jordan. I graduated from Carey in the year of 2020, so that's been a while. And with a degree as business analytics and risk management, and many of you guys here. So first, I would like to thank Professor Warren and Professor Xu for putting this machine learning and AI session together and inviting me here. That's really amazing, you know. And some quick background for myself. Since graduation, I have been working in analytical roles, where I currently hold the position as a principal data analyst in Capital One. Well, my journey has taken me through several different, roles in 2 to 3 years before, where I started from a local startup in Baltimore, and then switched to a industry-leading insurance company, and finally to where I am. Talk about like the hiring process. Well, Carey, the good thing for Harry is at the very beginning of the first semester, there's some career fairs that you can join, whether it's held by Johns Hopkins as a university or by Carey or SAS or any other schools you can join. But at the very beginning, it feels like I'm just doing, practice in my English, right? Just like what I do in the TOEFL. It doesn't really work at all, and just keep trying, and it never, turns out to work. And then I later on joined it's called a career development course, which teach me how to talk with people professionally and how to build my resume, etc., etc. It works a little bit, but not that much, because that year, 2020, it was a year of COVID. It's pretty like a hiring freeze. So even though I tried a bunch of career fairs, doesn't turn out to work. But finally, in the last career fair, I think it's in the year 2020, probably April, there's one local startup, which I just said, the one in Baltimore. They're hiring some like free interns, truly free interns, no pay, and also not that relevant to what I'm doing, but that's opportunity. So I think that's the first one tip I would like to give you guys is, if you feel it's really hard to start, maybe just focusing on some low-hanging fruit, right? It's pretty hard for immigrants or international students like us to directly go to somewhere pretty high bar and compete with native speakers. But if we just offer something for free, well, people are always welcome, right? Then it's pretty, I would say, drama that local company was finally acquired. That never happens. Or it's like really happens not that often, but it was acquired, and then I switched to a new company. And then the other thing is you always want to offer something more, because when I was in that local startup, I'm doing something totally not relevant to data analysis or business analysis, but I have this kind of ability. So sometimes I offer this to the only data analyst in the team, saying if you need something from me, you can always reach out to me. So with that time, people knows I can also do data analysis work, even though I don't have that title. So, when the acquire happens, they involve me in because they need a lot of data on how this company operates, how we deal with our customers, and how we manage our database. Many of those, they include me in. So the leadership from another company start to recognize me and acknowledge me. That's where I get my a full paid internship at that time. And then finally, when the previous data analyst left the company, hey, refer me to, become his role. But that hiring process is pretty careful. So if I want to put something here, I would like to talk about how I get into Capital One. So that happens in the year of 2022, where the economic is pretty good. And I get a chance to interview with several tech companies like Uber, Amazon, lift and also this one. So mainly talking about analyst role, whether it's a business analyst or data analyst, normally the process looks like this. You first, definitely your resume need to be picked up by the recruiters. And then there will be a formal HR call to talk about the company and the role. And also some like a general question of yourself to make sure you meet the basic requirement of what they're looking for. So the tips here is that probably do some research on this company and also on this role, trying to find something you're excited about, because for those recruiters, they don't have technologies. They cannot really tell whether you're a good technical person or not, but they can tell whether you do have the passion to work with them or whether you have this kind of attitude as a really professional candidate. And when it goes to the second step, normally there's like a technical questions round of the interview. That one, requires you to, do that interview with someone who probably had a senior title than you as the interviewer. And normally there's like two types of questions. One is more like a business relevant. The other is more like a technical relevant. Well, in the business relevant, it requires you to, solve a real problem they are facing, or probably a problem that has been already solved. But what they are trying to evaluate is your skill to, problem solving, critical thinking, and also the business logic behind. For the technical skill, it's pretty like the foundation for you to do your work, whether sometimes, SQL, even Tableau, or I don't see Python quite often, but it happens for the analyst role. So the top tier tips here is mainly just, do your homework, right? There's no easy way to get into a technical interview successfully without preparing. So definitely go LeetCode, go those, posts that has those kind of job interview tips and something else. Make sure you are prepared for this. Last step, which is what we call Power Day. It normally has several rounds of interviews with teammates, probably your stakeholders, your partner team manager, or the senior leadership from the business. And what they are looking for can be different, right? Amazon, they look for their cultures. They have like leadership principles. There's 14 different types you need to fit your story in. Other company could be different. But what you should do is, get some confidence on yourself. Because first, this is one last step before you get your offer. The second part is, do not think yourself as an interviewee. Instead think of yourself as a teammate, because this is what they are looking for, right? Your college is looking for someone who they would feel comfortable working with. The manager is looking for someone who can trust their work. Your leadership is looking for someone who fit their culture, right? So it's more about your personality and your impression plus your skills. So think of yourself as a real person, not something on the resume. My current role. So I'll go this really quick. So basically, as you may know, Capital One is like a fintech company which has heavily relied on its data and modern technologies to serve its customers. And its mainly revenue comes from its credit card business. So as a data analyst in the card business, I'm exposed to various of business need in most of the scenario, work as the middle bridge between the tech team versus the non-tech team. So think of the tech team as a product manager associated with its engineers team who owns the product, a platform, or pipeline that can serve its end users. While the business team works with our users, which is the customers pretty often, and they have some new intent to create or maybe solve some like the current needs from the customers. So it happens that the business team get confused, on those technical concepts, while the tech team, doesn't really have the capable to provide the support outside of their knowledge domain. So that's where the data analyst steps in to help. So in general, I'm working in those kind of three domains. One is called like operational processes, which requires the data analyst to redesign an outdated or manual workflow that is owned by an operation team and to a automatic or semi-automatic destination. In a technical speaking, so we're trying to reduce the usage of platforms that require manual interaction for human, while switching to the one that can smartly talk with each other through gateways like API calls. The second part is like control modernization. So the control is like a job that consists of a group of SQL queries to serve as guardrails for the business decision. For example, like there are controls that make sure the late fee correctly reflect to the customer's credit card account if they don't pay their balance timely. So make sure you always pay it, timely if you are using a credit card. And that control, can go ineffective if the data source goes wrong, or if the intent goes wrong, or if the policy, by the government has been updated. Many of the scenarios can happen, and we are the one who need to make sure it always works as expected. The other side is like the intent, especially the new intent. Think of a business team want to deploy a machine learning model to detect the fraud. In this case, they don't have the knowledge, that much knowledge of what this machine learning is doing. They may know, in general, but when it goes to details, it will require the DS knowledge to first understand the concept, whether it's like a statistical part or a little bit like a machine learning part. While the other is to partner with the machine learning team to deploy this model. So yeah, that's kind of like the day-to-day work in my role in Capital One. And I'll probably stop here for a second.
Appreciate that. Kshitiz, what about you? Welcome.
Hi, Professor Warren. Thank you for having me. And all great points by the panel. Like I was also a graduate of the BOM program last year, and I studied with Nan and Jake, and these are all my buddies. And I studied under Professor Warren as well, so I can and Professor Shu as well. So thank you so much for organizing this and inviting me here. About me, as I said, was a graduate of the BOM program. I've had 2 years of work experience working in the fintech industry as a business analyst before, and I have a bachelor's in computer science and engineering from India. Right now, I'm working as a senior analyst in the energy industry because I just wanted a change of industries and I wanted to learn something new, and which is why I'm in Austin, Texas. Of course, we'll not be able to cover every little thing there is about job search, etc. So if you have any specific questions you'd like, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm sure you have the flyer that's linked to my LinkedIn, and just attach a note that you are at this conference, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. But first, to be on topic, what is the role of AI and machine learning in the future? Well, a lot of my research is on data centers, which is the backbone of AI industry and the cloud industry. And I can certainly say that the companies like Microsoft, Google, Apple, and other companies as well, they're increasing at a rapid pace, roughly 25 to 35% CAGR, which means that roughly by 2030, out of all the power that the United States consumes, roughly 10% of that will just go to data centers. So think of that as a scale of how many jobs will be available in the AI industry going forward, and why this might be a place, if you're more technical and you're more confident in your technical skills, why you might want to shift to that industry. Other than that, I really appreciate and sort of agree with Zhuoran's comments on sort of working on your communication skills. And the way I did that was I joined a job search council. You can look that up on LinkedIn. And it's an initiative and a movement sort of pioneered by a Harvard graduate, which will pair you up with people with similar interests, but different years of experience. So these will be people that are also looking for a job in the market, but some might be like with 20 years of experience, and some might be like really freshers just like you guys. And then you'll meet based upon your own availabilities and discuss how your job search is going, and just discuss how you preparing for interviews, etc. It's sort of like a good place to get like an interview practice buddy, and just to sort of learn how to answer by being precise and to the point. Other than that, of course, the tools that I use on a daily basis, I use Python, SQL, and most importantly, Excel. I also use map visualization tools such as QGIS, Tableau, and Power BI on a basically daily basis. But the other part of my job is also multidisciplinary, where I deal with clients and I'm owning different products. So that project management and product management course that Jake was talking about will also come in handy. But if there are any specific questions I can answer, I'm happy to answer them.
Awesome, thank you. So I think what we should do next is to see what questions we have. We've got a couple microphones. I'm going to give up the microphone now. Anybody got a specific question you want to ask? Where is the other mic, by the way? Did it disappear? Okay. Questions here.
So I have a question. So I know our school have a lot of resources and channels to help us find jobs. So which channel or resources you guys found the most important or most helpful to help us get a job? Thank you.
Sure, I can try and take that first, and then if anybody else wants to join in, please do. For me, I think it's very different for everybody, it's very personal. I found my job through Handshake. Like I had multiple offers, but each offer was from a different platform. So I would say that just keep applying. It's about getting that one application through for your first offer, then everything just starts flowing better. For me, Handshake worked very well. For Nan, as you heard before, it didn't really work that much for her. So it just depends on you. I would just put emphasis on networking with people, on sort of going through all your monthly happy hours, just trying to see what's out there. Also, I think there's a startup funding organization for Hopkins as well. And a lot of our MBA students, they're wanting to do startups and they're looking for people that might be interested in joining them. So that's also a way that you can get into the job market. And as Zhuoran said, you start small and then you work up to the company that you really want to get into. So it could be like Google, Meta, whatever company that you dream of. It could be that. It's very volatile and the market's really tight right now, but you just need that one application to work out. And that's just, if you keep practicing, use your peer career advisor hours. I was a peer career advisor as well. They will help you with resumes, and with the resume, don't have it over one page. You should be able to explain whatever your experiences or projects are within 1 to 2 bullet points and like be precise. As somebody who's taking interviews at my company, um, I like to see people that are to the point, that are very precise, and that, can explain to me very clearly what they've done and what experiences that they've had over just like reading through, a bunch of things that might not even be relevant. So just keep it concise. And like, if you don't know what to keep, what not to keep, go sort of contact Liz Matthews or Katie Plumer at the Career Development Office, and they'll set you up with the peer career advisors, and that'll help you. If anybody else wants to add anything, please feel free.
Yeah, I have something to add to that. So what worked for me was LinkedIn. I know a lot of people don't say that because every application on LinkedIn has over 500 submitted applicants. So it can seem really daunting. I'd say that ended up working for me. It took about 4 to 5 months from sending in the application to actually getting an offer. So I really had to be persistent, whether it was emailing or just following up or tracking the application. I would say the other thing was directly applying on the company's website as opposed to submitting it through LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to get right into their system and get a response. But what worked for me the most was I would find a position on LinkedIn, go to the company's page, and then find people already in that position at the company. And I would add them and connect with them. And then they could tell me everything about the job. Maybe they were adjacent to it, or they were a more senior position, or they knew that team, and they could tell me things like the specific software they use. So a couple examples, I talked to somebody at Condé Nast, which is the publication company. They own like Vogue and Bon Appetit, things like that. She was a financial analyst, and she told me all the different kinds of software they used and what exactly they did. So she gave me the keywords to put on my resume. Now that job didn't end up working out, didn't get a call back for that, but similar to the position that I have now, I did talk to people who were in this position, whether it was at other companies like Warner Brothers or Paramount, or even at Sony. And those people helped me kind of reconstruct my resume in a way. There wasn't much to tweak, but just specific keywords, emphasizing SQL or Python, or maybe that company uses Jira, which is a project management software. So putting that on my resume helped as well. I don't think in my time at Carey, I had that on my resume, but I watched some YouTube videos. I learned enough of the basics to be able to get that on there under my skills.
Not anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can add something. For me, I think link, handshake, and networking are all important. Actually, when I was at school, I was also in a dilemma on how to distribute my time into the different sources, and I was wondering which one is the most important. But I think I figured out all of them should be done at the same time. Like you can't just focus on one source. You can't just talking to people and doesn't apply, but you can also you can't either apply on LinkedIn or handshake only. And I found another tip proved to be useful as after you found this position is pretty relevant to your resume, direct message to the people working in this team directly, or the hiring manager who is responsible for this position's hiring process, and talk to them and give the your schedule to them and try to get a coffee with them. That's one of the tip that I would say.
Yeah, I'll probably only have 1 or 2 point add on because the panelist has covered most of the part I'd like to talk about. I think one of them could be to find someone who has the same goal with you. I know this is not like a definition of a channel, but sometimes like think of this way, right? People in your class all have different goals. Someone would like to probably seek a job back to, our home country, or someone would like to stay here. You first need to find someone who has the same goal with you, and then find someone who's really like putting a lot of efforts on that. I remember in my year, I joined a student program called the BARMO. It's called BARM organization, and the president was a lady who's really like has a lot of energy, holding those kind of events, networking, etc., etc. And she herself created a bunch of like opportunities for us to talk with the insiders, which is really amazing. So I think find the right person is definitely one tips that could helpful. The other is more like a well way, which probably only be useful if you stay in somewhere that is like has a lot of like population. That happens when I was in New York because I joined several like hobby groups, and I know people there, and there are someone like applied scientists in Amazon or engineers in Google, and when we get along with each other, we just ask referrals, and which to be honest, it's really useful because if you just apply on LinkedIn, probably the passing rate that your resume can go through is around 3 to 4%, I would say, from my experience. But if you do referral, you can probably double or even triple that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. To add to that, of course, like have hobbies, if you like playing pickleball or something, just go. A lot of people like that you might want to work with, you might end up making friends over there. Like whenever you're going to a bar as well, just, there's a lot of spaces just to have conversations with people. I know it's like, sounds boring. If you go to a bar, why would you sort of talk about your career? But sometimes, you got to do what you got to do depending on what situation you're in. And another thing that you can do is that make a small group of friends. Like if you don't want to do the job search council or anything, you just have to make sure that you get a certain number of applications in a day. Proper applications, not the easy apply ones. That's something separate. So, you make a group, set a time every day. And with that group, just like when you're with people, you could just be chatting and just putting your applications in. Make sure to track the changes that you make in your resume and see like what sort of response rate you're getting. And then, you can make a little bit like minor changes every now and then to your resume that can help. Use action words and that will help. And also use the free tools that Kerry gives you. I forget, I think it's called VMock, the resume grading tool. Make sure to use it wisely and use it sparingly, but use it wisely. It has a new feature, I think, that if you paste your job description in there, it can sort of assess how well your particular resume does. And another sort of hack, how you can sort of see if your resume is good enough or not, is go search for one particular type of role that you want to apply for. Let's say it's a business analyst position, right? Go on LinkedIn, in a Word document, copy like, I don't know, 10 or 15 different job descriptions of like that you like. Go to a word cloud generator, and in that word cloud generator, just see what words pop up. When you copy and paste it in the word cloud generator, you'll see what sort of skills are being needed. Of course, filter for filler words like and the etc. Otherwise, they'll be the biggest words there. Just focus on the words that are actually meaningful. So when I did that, SQL, Python, and Tableau and Excel were the ones that came up. Also, just like focus on like building your projects. I think that's basically it. And you can all do all of this with a friend group, and that's gonna be much easier. You could just go to a restaurant and sit and then eat and then chill as well, side by side. But yeah, if there's any other question.
Okay, so we all know that the job market this year is very tough. So my question may be also very tough. Can each of you share with us one of your secret tips, how you adjust yourself after a failed interview? And please share with us something that you think definitely does not work for an interview.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll go second. I don't wanna yap too much. So
Okay, sounds good. I can talk about this. I do remember in the year of 2022 when I started to do the job interview because I just want to switch another job. The first one is actually a referral comes from my friend in Uber. That one, when I look at that job description, it was like built for me. It's just everything do match my previous experience and their requirements. So my friend, she's like insider, so she directly gives my resume to their hiring manager, and the hiring manager is also impressed by that. So we set up the interview pretty quick, and the first round went pretty through. And when it goes to the second round, which is the technical round, I feel like I'm doing well on the business side versus the SQL. But later on, when my friend reached back to me, she said, "Oh, they feel like your SQL is not good enough, so probably they won't, just continue this conversation." And at that time, I feel like, oh, it's just so disappointed because that one was like kind of like my best fit at that moment, and I feel I will never get another one like that. But in the meanwhile, I think what important is your mindset, right? Think of this, right? If this one you didn't get it, just persuade yourself this one is not the best one, even though it sounds like the best one. And then later on, you're gonna get the one that is better than this one. And that's finally, turns out to be the truth for me, at least for me. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like think of the interview starting point, that failed interview as a starting point, not as the end point of your life. Because many of the scenarios we never get an interview, right? Most of the cases, your resume won't even be take a look by the recruiters. Once you get an interview, you already success a lot. So always have those kind of like positive attitude to yourself and keep telling yourself you're good enough, you deserve something better. So that's my tips.
all right, and to just add on to that, so one thing that I changed after a few interviews was I tried to be too general and ambiguous during a lot of interviews because I always wanted to make sure that I was giving the right answer. So whatever they said, I'd say I loved it. Whatever they said I'd be doing, I said that's exactly what I wanted to do. And a lot of times I was able to convince them that I was invested, but my answers weren't direct enough, and I didn't really have that passion for that specific job. So I feel like that's kind of what led to some failures early on. So what I started to change was I started to be direct and explain directly what I was passionate for, what I liked, what I didn't like. And sometimes that wouldn't hit the mark. It wasn't what they were looking for. I remember applying to some jobs for financial advising. The guy did not like me. He didn't like how direct I was with data. It was maybe more social of a position. He liked talking to people. He didn't really like the numbers. So that didn't work. But then when I started to interview for other positions, they loved that. Everything I had to say, I would bring up projects in Python or other kinds of projects, and it would involve things that were in the job description, in the job duties, and they hadn't have even brought it up yet. So they really liked that. And for my interview process for the job that I have now, I was very direct with what I liked and listed what I was interested in. And also, the one thing to think about is everybody in the room, whether you're interviewing in a group or you're at a super day and you're one interview and there was one person right before you and another immediately after, most of the people in that room are qualified. You have all gotten that far. You all have the technical skills that it takes to be there. So what's going to set you apart from the rest of those people? And that's what I focused on. And a lot of what they look for is how can you explain those technical skills through your voice, through your soft skills, your social skills, things like that. So whether it's an interview or you're talking to somebody else in the office who doesn't know how to code or anything like that, how do you generalize it in a way that they can understand it? And how do you, while you're on the spot on an interview, how do you walk through that? So it could be a sales position, you're trying to talk them into buying a product. It could be something technical. A team has some sort of database migration they want to do, and you need to explain what you need from them. And the person you're talking to is more on the business side. They don't know the technicals of it. So being able to explain that was very important as well. And I think that's what a lot of interviewers look for, is being able to concisely explain that information, but also what do you do outside of those core technical skills? What makes you an asset besides just knowing Excel or knowing SQL or Power BI? Because they already have a lot of faith in you, giving you that first interview, that you know all of those technical skills.
Okay, I can go next. So of course I don't know, I think I had over 1,200 applications, only received maybe 150 interviews. And I received a lot of rejections, through either email, like people sometimes they wouldn't even get back. And initially it sort of used to get me. To cope with that, I used to sort of make music. That was always my hobby. I'd either go to Echo Stage either, or I'd go to, a jazz place, go for a drive with my friends. And that's what sort of helped me, because understand that I wasn't alone in this process, right? There's a lot of you, everybody is talented. And, some people get it way earlier. I was sort of shocked when I got into the program that some people had already had jobs offered to them when they were, in the first week of the program. And I was just like way too impressed. And I had a lot of catching up to do, but which is fine because you sort of move at your own pace. You don't need to have everything figured out. Of course, you want to take your time to get into a role that you actually like. And that's the difference I've seen in my working life. That this change where I'm working right now, all the people that I'm working with, they're really smart and they're really sort of communicative in the sense where they push me professionally. And they're also my friends, that they're not people that, I won't want to hang out after work in case we have a team happy hour or something, I won't avoid them. So that sort of people. So that's a stage you'll get to as well eventually when you're sort of making that decision of, oh, should I just go for the higher salary job that's being offered to me, or just, stick by something that I really, really like doing. And what I'd say is that I've had a lot of friends that have gone back to China, worked on their own startups, etc., or like have moved here, the happiest ones tend to usually do what they like, and they tend to find a way to do it, even if they're in a position right now where they can't afford sort of missing the next career opportunity. So you might want to do it on the side, but just keep in mind that this is a job. It doesn't define you unless you want it to define you, and if you do, then it's better to do something that you like doing, if that makes sense. But yeah, just enjoy. People here, I think, just before the final round for Aurora, I'd gotten rejected from, I think it was BCG. It was the final round of BCG. And it said that, oh, sorry, we did not look at your application. You're an international applicant and we're not sponsoring any visas right now, which really got to me. And I was so fed up. And because of this organization's nature, like everybody here is really, really smart. They're, from MITs and Stanfords of the world. And I thought I wouldn't get in because imposter syndrome. So I was just like relaxed. I was like, I'll just get some practice in. And I think that took the pressure off, where in my round of interviews, I was just sort of, cracking jokes, and I was just being me. I wasn't really being the professional self that I trained to be for interviews. And I think they just like that. So sometimes that can work out for you as well. Just try and relax, have a deep breath, and be yourself. It's gonna be fine. And that's it. Nan, do you have something?
Thank you, thank you. Yes, for this question, I think, yeah, it's not honest to say you won't feel disappointed after being rejected, but I would say try to see it as a practice, and I would say try to think you're one step closer to the final destination you will be. And I think the second part I will say after being rejected is try to adjust yourself on the direction of the position you applied for. On my own story, originally I like to apply for some investment banks because I did the summer internship in the investment bank in Canada. In the last summer, I come to the States. And at that time, I thought I would really like investment bank, and that the investment bank that I did the summer internship is that's a big name company, and I was very confident that I can get into Wall Street at that time. And I spent a lot of time on that, but after being rejected, and I found probably the situation at that time is investment bank, like they are hiring freeze and you have to adjust yourself. So at that time, I tried to think of some place that I have the possibility to get into, and I started to think of the public sector, such as IMF and World Bank, even though they only sponsor you when you work in public sector and you can get out to the private sector after you get into. But I think in this case, you have to adjust yourself and choose the most possible one. And I think the third part that I want to talk about is how to release yourself, how to release the pressure, and try to be try not to be nervous before the interview. Someone told me you just need to be the least worst one in one interview. I think that's useful for me. You don't have to be the most you don't have to be perfect. You just need to be least worst. And I think it's also important to hang out with the friends that have the similar goals with you. I still remember last year, Kshitiz invited a bunch of friends and treat us to taste his Indian food, and that's right after the graduation. And we both don't have job at that time, but everything will be okay. Yeah, so just believe in yourself and everything will work out.
I have a question. Actually, that some of you have mentioned that in the job searching process that for for us international students that what we care most about is our identity. Like we have about 2 months to graduate, and at this time, like how can we like target those companies that provide sponsorship and I know that many big companies are cutting off, and even though that they don't post on job description that they don't provide sponsorship, that they will maybe they want to give you a job opportunity because you are international students. I mean, how can we find the jobs? How can we target the companies that really like provide sponsorships?
Sure thing, no worries. I can speak about how I targeted that. So initially, of course, I had that problem as well. On Handshake, you just have a simple filter where you can, filter based on if they offer sponsorship or not. Networking also is just very, very nice about that, because then your network will already tell you if sponsorship is available or not. Usually for extremely small companies, sponsorship is not available. For extremely large companies, usually sponsorship is available. How you can check what companies have sponsored in the past year? There's one website. I'll drop it in the chat. It's called h1binfo.data, I think. H1binfo.data or h1bdata.info. It's one of those two. I'll just it's one of those two websites. Just check it if you just Google H1B info. So it's a list of all the companies that have provided US sponsorship. So it'll give you, I can actually pull it up online right here and then maybe share my screen to show you how I did it. H1B data. So here, let me know if you can see my screen, okay? Can you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I just searched H1B data. You can go here. So every year this is updated. You can just basically see, what year you want. It's updated till 2023. What job title, what employer. If you just search regularly, it'll just give you a list. For example, if you just search Meta, let's say. Here it'll tell you like what the base salary was of the person that they hired. I think they also tell you like the location, the visa type. Also, I think there is some sort of visa type. And then you can see what sort of titles you can sort of target when looking for a job. If you want to do the other way around, you just type business analyst here. It'll give you an option. You search. Now you'll see salaries, right? And these are all here's the list of employers, and this is a great summary. You see Tata Consultancy Services, median salary is roughly 100K, 52 positions that they sponsored last year, Systems of Technology, Google Technologies, etc. So here you can basically see what sort of companies are actually hiring, then go to their job page and see if a similar role is available or not. Even then, there might be a chance that the companies have freezed sponsorship. For example, I was applying to Capital One a lot. I might have been your colleague, Zhuoran. And I had a few referrals where at that time, like before my first interview, they just stopped giving sponsorships in 2023. So like couldn't really do anything, even though they have sponsored for the same position like senior data analyst, senior business analyst before. Sometimes companies just stop. So like go to these websites, figure out what companies have sponsored, then make networks there based on what positions are available. Ask your networks or your recruiters, and how to move forward. There's also one guy I used to sort of watch a lot of YouTube videos of. His name is Jeff Su. He has a lot of good tips and advice on how you can prepare for interviews, how you can look for jobs, especially on like LinkedIn. He has certain strategies. And I also use like other platforms like very odd platforms such as Otter AI, Indeed, etc. They didn't really work that well for me, but you should give it a try anyway, because these different platforms, AI platforms that are coming up right now, they will automatically apply based on how your profile fits the current job market. They'll apply to different jobs. You can also go to Y Combinator. Y Combinator has a lot of startup jobs. If you don't mind working extra hard and earning little money in the start, it is a really good place to gain experience. It's sort of like an internship rather than a full-time job, but you can get into Y Combinators as well, because the founders are very much willing to chat with you because they need good people on their teams. But other than that, if you guys have anything else.
Yeah, I can probably add a little bit more here. So feel like what Kshitiz talk about is more like a straight A student, well, who strictly goes to the big names. So I'm just talking from more like a student who really get that many A's in class. So from my starting point, right, we are STEM program. So the first thing you should know is that even though you cannot get a sponsorship at very beginning, at least you have 3 years, you know, which doesn't require you to get a sponsorship at that time. The other thing is there are this side probably companies who do not sponsor, well, in the other side, companies sponsor. Well, there are also in the middle point where you never know. And how you change that never know to, okay, we will sponsor you is you as a person. I do remember I'm probably the only 1 or 2 person in my previous company who got the sponsorship, because it's like they want to work with you and then they realize you need this, then the leadership is going to push that, because otherwise they have to recruit another people. Well, they also have the, you know, the cost there to get someone else, and also the transition. People, you know, always like do this P&L analysis to see which one is more doable from a company's perspective. That's why I would say definitely if it's not that easy plan to go those big names at the beginning, you can start from, let's say, first year. If you try your best and nothing works, probably an internship, right? Or like a teaching assistant in Cary. During this process, you build your brand in US. That's pretty important, because many of us, we probably have work experience in China or somewhere, but it's not in US. The employer, they don't know what is this and what you're doing there. So try to build some of a brand in the US, and then, you know, get into somewhere. And you don't have to talk about the H1B sponsorship at the very beginning, but try to show your personality and show your ability to help the team or the company to grow. And later on, once you have been an invaluable asset somewhere, you're very likely to get the approval for your sponsorship. That's from my experience.
Can we do another question?
Hi, so most of us are international students here. So like I think Jake mentioned that each job gets around like 500 to like 600 resumes. So because we don't have like experience that's over a year or like something that's more than 2 years, what do you think we can do in class or like something in Cary that will make us stand out? Something that's outside class, not something that's related to the coursework. That will make sure that we have the necessary skills that it needs for any kind of job, not just the soft skills.
Yeah, so one thing that I did was different what are they called, online courses, the certifications. Those helped a lot because that was a really transparent way of showing that I knew a specific topic, or I might know what I was talking about. So before I had started applying for jobs, I was taking different courses on Coursera because I think that's free with the education email. So that helped. I took a course in financial markets. It was through like Yale University, and it was a famous economics professor, Robert Schiller, who was teaching the course. It was not live. You could do it whenever you want. So I just did it at night or whenever I had free time. And then there was a test at the end. I had to write a paper, and then it had to be like approved by like 5 other students or something like that. And then I got a course completion certificate. And that helped a lot because on my interviews, I spoke about the course, I spoke about the professor and just why I took it, why I was interested in it. And the same kind of goes for the AWS certifications that I have as well. I started applying for positions that were specific to cloud computing, and a lot of what I do at my current job has a lot to do with the AWS and Azure cloud, things like that. So I started taking those as on the AWS website. They're on Coursera or Cloud Guru. There are a lot of free options that you can take, and they're not the live proctored exams, but you still learn the same material and you get a certification, which you can put on your resume, and then they will ask you about it. And I know a lot of the information, and it's enough to convince the person interviewing you that you know what you're talking about. And so if they do hire you, it will, you'll hit the ground running. It won't take you very long to ramp up. And another thing was projects. So one of the projects I did at Carey, I think Kshitiz, you were on my team for that, right? It was in business analytics with Nosley. We did the
Yeah, the optimization.
optimizer. Yeah, we tried to do this optimizer for
Job
job
optimization.
applications.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we were trying to like scrape LinkedIn for data and then use the Excel solver or GAMS even to kind of tell us how to most efficiently apply to our jobs. So not only was that a project that involved some Python and Excel and things like that, but it was a very like funny project to bring up in the interview. So the interviewers would remember, hey, that's the guy that had that really weird project where he was like trying to find the most efficient way to apply for jobs. And it was just a really like funny thing that also demonstrated my skill set.
Yeah, I think all valid points, Jake, like building your project portfolio and just like trying to stand out. There's like a million different ways how you can do that. Your social skills could be one, your hacker rank could be one. It all depends on what sort of job you wanting to do. For me, I wanted to show that I have leadership skills and that I'm a people person as well, because I have a very technical background with the computer science degree, but I wanted to show the employers that I can also handle the client side very well, even though I have 2 years of experience doing that. It's not very visible because it is in India. So what I did was I was the vice president at the Indian Student Association, organized events. I was working with Professor Shu, like other professors as well. I was working as a TA. So you guys might have seen me in your classes, like from like January that time around, because I was, taking some classes and just helping students out, networking, did peer career advising as well. And to be perfectly honest, when I did do peer career advising, that helped me as well because I saw that everybody is on a similar page. Everybody, regardless of their financial background, regardless of their wealth or their status in the society, starting at a roughly similar page, where they're all in the job market. They all have similar levels of experience and they all have similar projects. So one thing that sort of I took away from that is that exactly that, if I build different and specific enough projects that actually solve a problem that I have, it doesn't really matter if it is a very fancy project like a lot of people do these Netflix clones, Spotify clones. It doesn't need to be that fancy at all. It could be something as simple as a PDF converter, for example, and something that just automates your life and makes it better. It could be a simple AI machine learning project, which I did for like Professor Warren's class. I just wanted to grow blueberries because I really like blueberries, and that's what my final project was for Professor Warren's class. And I think I did okay. You would be able to speak better on that, on my performance. But I just wanted to solve a problem that was just very specific to me. And because it was specific to me and I had sort of a solution, I was able to be confident when I was speaking about the topic. So if there was any other question that the interview wanted to ask, I didn't really need to specifically prepare for that question. I already knew that because I had done my research before. And sometimes we just do projects so that it's there on our profile and we don't really understand it fully, but it looks cool just because it's a good project, it's a fancy project, but we don't really understand it. So that can be a pitfall because you will get asked questions the cooler the project looks. Yeah, because it's a conversation starter. So make sure you know it. That's it.
I've got a question about the blueberries. I've got a bunch of birds in the backyard that like my blueberries more than you do. Is there an automated solution to that problem?
Could you repeat that? The
Yeah,
blueberries won't grow?
Yeah, I have a couple of blueberry bushes in the backyard,
Yeah.
and the birds in the backyard like the blueberries more than you do. You have an automated solution for me?
I don't, but I was reading about this laser system on blueberry farms that they're testing out. I think it's a little too advanced for your little bushes, but it basically
Yeah, I'm very low
has a
tech, yeah,
lot of
sorry.
AI applications into it, where it detects these insects and these little birds and shoots laser beams at them. For little insects, it just fries them, so you don't need to use pesticides, etc. And for birds, it just shoos them away because it shine different frequencies or sounds or etc. something like that. But it's effective. Maybe you want to give that a try. Just like I think $4 million for 2 bushes. I don't know if you like
Some
blueberries.
irresponsible AI. Is that what you're suggesting here?
Pardon?
Some irresponsible AI.
Yeah, definitely. Also, like, use whatever AI tools that you have at your disposal. Use ChatGPT. Everybody else is doing it. Your language, your ability to communicate shouldn't be a complete barrier for your entry into the market, right? You need to learn how to use ChatGPT to be able to use it effectively, because I've seen a lot of people use it and it's just not effective enough. But if you know how to use it, you can make like really good progress with it and really fast. I used it for like really quick iterations. I used it as an interview prep buddy where I would say that, oh, I'm preparing for this role. These are the specifics. Just ask me random questions and I just like type in my answers. Or if I just wanted to practice speaking, I would record my answers. There's a free AI tool called otter.ai. It will transcribe whatever I've recorded, and then I'd submit that answer into ChatGPT, and it would sort of give me feedback as to what sort of filler words I should avoid, what sort of brevity I should have in my answer, if that makes sense. These are just all very extra steps. First of all, you need to make sure that your basics are right, and then maybe you can venture into this. But use all the AI tools that you have. It'll help you.
Other questions, folks? Yeah, one last question, maybe?
Hi, thank you for the great presentation. So recently I'm looking of some of the opening jobs, and I feel most of them make sense, like require more than 1 year's working experience. But for me, I have the internship and maybe the part-time, so I think it's less than 1 year. Do you have any recommendation for us to find any entry-level jobs, or do you think we could still apply to the jobs that says it's require 1 year working experience?
I think you definitely can apply to jobs that have 1 year or even 2 year. I think what also counts is the other experience you have and your education. And these are the things that they're going to look at. In that case, too, it even depends on the applicant pool. I was, reading things online, and sometimes there are people with 4 years experience applying to positions that only require 2. But what really matters is your resume and your LinkedIn profile. They tell a story. And as long as you can get that in and they can take a look at it, you want to be able to convince them by the end of the sheet of paper that you are a worthy candidate. And in my experience, when I was interviewing with many different companies, some of them were immediately interested in my education. And for some, it was an afterthought, and they looked at my resume and my experience. And for others, they focused more on projects. So I would say that you should definitely be applying to those positions 1 year, 2 year, because it's essentially an entry-level job. And from what I understand from a couple of my other friends that went to different schools who became recruiters, that's mostly what they're looking for. They know people that are going to apply are going to have 1 year or less than a year or have internship experience. And these days, internship experience does count as full experience. You are doing all of that work, and they understand that. Oh, and one thing I wanted to add too, before I forget, about the interview process, and what this worked for me, but asking the people who I interviewed with what they did, what their position was, what they do day to day, because that will give you a good hint on why they are interviewing you. So most of the time, in the few instances that I got a second or third round interview, there was very clearly one person who was the more technical, the other one that was going to be like my manager, for example, who was very clearly in charge of that team. And then there was one that was more looking for your behavior, the more social aspect. So in my experience, there was one guy very clearly that was interviewing me based on my project management skills. And there was another that wanted to hear about Python, wanted to hear about Power BI, any sort of technical application that I've done. And then the other was the team lead. I was going to be on that person's team, and that was my opportunity to really pitch my skill set to that person. But they don't always tell you in the beginning, and you don't really know until the end when you're looking back on all the questions that they've asked you. So it is good to ask what they do for a day-to-day.
Not anything to add to that?
Yeah, probably one more thing. So first is sometimes whether you get your resume picked up by the recruiter depends on when you get into the pool, right? So always look for those jobs that was posted, I would say, within a day. In that case, there's only like several people behind you, and you are more likely to at least have your resume been looked by the recruiters. Sometimes you would say probably you only have 5 or 6 months internship, which is less than a year, but I would say 1 year is pretty close to like a really just new grads, so you don't have to care that much. But definitely do not apply to those jobs that has already been 300, 500 applicants. It's actually close, I would say, from my perspective. The other side is your master degree also counts. Let's say for Capital One, when we hire senior data analyst, if you have a bachelor degree, you have like 3 years plus experience as a base requirement to apply. But if you are a master, normally it's less than a year. So master degree is not everyone who has that. That's your privilege. You should be able to, be aware of that as well. Yeah.
I would also look at it as if you just apply, you're not really losing out on anything. If you don't apply, it's a definite no. But if you apply, you might get picked. So why don't you apply? Unless it's like a full-blown application where it's taking maybe like an hour of your time, then of course, sit and think what other applications you can fill. But if you feel that whatever projects you've done, whatever your degree is, etc., your experiences that you've had till now match very well with with this particular role, definitely spend the time, because that list that you see, the checklist of requirements on a job description, it's a wish list from the recruiter, and they don't get to have everything that they want anyway. Right now, it's more of the case where they can because of the massive layoffs that are happening in tech companies. But I think this year is a lot better than previous years. I would say, like, of course, you have to keep applying every single day, but the peak timings, they're about to come as well. If you want to get into consulting, make sure you have your case interview preparation done. Case interviews are very common for business analyst and data analyst positions. I'm gonna write this person's name. This is also on YouTube. He's called Victor Cheng, and he has like his own website and YouTube series on like how to prepare for case interviews. Only 12 videos, I think. And that's a really good starting point. He'll tell you how to think about these interviews as well. So end of May, beginning June, till end of July would be a big cycle for these consulting companies. Tech usually hires all the time. Hiring also goes back up around December time because they have to get rid of their budget, and then it stays up till March, I'd say, because they have excess budget in the start of the year where they have to hire many people, and they would want to hire as many people as possible in the spring so that they can use them for the entire year, not just to get rid of the budget. So these are usually the cycles, and like June, July is because of the tax cycle. So the companies have to file their taxes on June 30th, I believe. I'm not too sure about that, but that's when the tax season comes then. And that's why the more expense that you show on your balance sheet, the less you have to pay on taxes, right? So that's just it. I see Professor Shu's reaction. Thank you. But yeah, Nan, anything you want to add?
I think Nan may have dropped.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Folks, I think that is it. Really, really appreciate this. I'm going to thank Nan in her absence. Kshitiz, Zhuoran, Jake, fabulous. A lot of resources, a lot of ideas. It seems like everybody needs to get a job to get a job. I think that's the main takeaway that I've got from this. But the importance of the back door, the importance of learning in the job search, sort of adapting yourself, sort of closing the gap to what the market wants from wherever you are. I think these are all important themes that you've all reinforced. Really appreciate your time. Great, good luck. Hope to host you back here in when you hit that CIO role, that CEO role, and CTO role. Nice work. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.